Hello everyone, it's Mariners Fanatic back with another YouTube video, and today we're just going to be going over some roster news, what our payroll looks like, and then looking at the 40-man roster as a whole as we head into free agency this coming week. I know that I already did a video on kind of the offseason outlook, and this is kind of a part 2 of that video as things have already occurred, such as decisions that Kyle Seager and Yusei Kikuchi made. So starting off with that news, most of you probably already know, but Yusei Kikuchi declined his $13 million player option, which is a very big surprise. Of course, the team had already notified him that we were going to be declining our end of the team option, and it looked pretty clear that he would take that $13 million one-year option that he holds. However, he did not, which, like I said, comes as a surprise because I personally do not think that he can enter the free agency market and get that same amount of money. He might be able to get a contract with more years involved, but I just don't see him getting much more guaranteed money than he could have had in that 1 year, potentially build his stock back up for going to free agency. Because right now his free agent stock is as low as it's ever going to be, potentially. Maybe not the best move for him, but we'll see how it pans out. But it definitely worked for us, as that's another $13 million that's off the books and ready for us to spend. Next up was Kyle Seager's option was declined, and he was given a $2 million buyout. There was a bit of drama and he said, she said behind this. If you want to look at the full details, Ryan Divish on Twitter has that full story. There's also been other media outlets that have reported on it. I'm not going to touch on it just because Kyle Seager was a big part of this team for the past 10 years, and I'd like to respect his legacy and just move on from the situation. He was an important piece for our team for the past 10 plus years, and I wish him the best, and I hope he can still continue his performance with another team. And if not, he decides he wants to hang it up, I wish him a happy retirement. So that's all I'm going to say on that, and we'll just move on from there. Nick Margevicius, Kyle Lewis, Ken Giles, and Evan White were activated off of the 60-day injured list. This is something that has to occur once the season is over and before free agency starts, as during the season, when a player is injured, you can keep them on your 40-man roster. In a way, it's like a protected spot, and add other players so that you still have a full 40-man roster, but that is not the case during the offseason, as you could stack players. It's hard to explain, but either way, all of these guys are going to be healthy for next season anyways, so in the long run, it doesn't matter too much. But those 4 guys have been activated. Still a pretty big question mark whether Kyle Lewis or Evan White will be ready for the season, but we'll get more information on that as the season goes along. Margevicius, same thing with him as he's coming back from surgery, and Ken Giles is almost 100% going to be ready for the season, as that was the whole reason behind the deal that we signed with him, so I'm excited to see Giles in a Mariners uniform. Justin Dunn was also activated from the injured list and put back onto the 40-man. And then some players that we already knew were going to be declaring free agency that I talked about in a previous video. Tyler Anderson, Sean Doolittle, Joe Smith, Hector Santiago, and James Paxton, as well as way earlier in the offseason, Jose Marmoleos. And then a little bit more recently, but still kind of older news, Shed Long, who was outrighted, cleared off the 40-man, and then he decided to hit free agency. Obviously, any of those players heading to free agency we could potentially bring back. However, I don't see us bringing back any of them except for maybe Tyler Anderson or James Paxton, but I wish all of them the best as they continue their careers. There were also other players that were outrighted off the 40-man roster. Marcus Wilson, Jake Bowers, Ryan Weber, Sam Haggerty, and Darren McCacken were all outrighted to clear roster spots. LJ Newsome was activated and then put on waivers. He did not clear waivers, and the St. Louis Cardinals picked him up, so he's going to have an opportunity with them. I'm really happy that Sam Haggerty and Jake Bowers were able to clear waivers, as I believe them to be pretty solid depth pieces for us in AAA or even on the bench for us throughout the season as injuries occur. With that said, that brings our 40-man roster to 36 at the moment. There's 4 open spots, but that is likely going to change throughout the offseason as we sign or trade for players. And then there's other players that are currently on the 40-man roster that are potentially on the chopping block, starting with Juan Ten, who is a top 30 prospect in our system, but has really struggled. He had a rough season in Everett and then so far on the Arizona Fall League. He has not been able to improve upon that performance, and it's going to be pretty hard to keep justifying having him on that 40-man roster. So his future is a little bit uncertain. And then Eric Swanson, Justice Sheffield, and Dylan Moore are all players that have showed flashes of success with us in the past. All three of these guys will likely stay on the roster, but their continued struggles and ups and downs with the team over the last 3 years could signal an end to their times in Seattle if we find replacements for them that are more worth keeping. And then lastly, Kevin Padlow was just a depth piece signed throughout the season during times when we needed players because of all the injuries we sustained. I'm not sure if he'll continue to be on the 40-man roster throughout this offseason as moves are made. Either way, he's just a depth piece regardless. After Kikuchi opted out of his player option, the Mariners are in an excellent spot with Payroll, as we have roughly about $45 million committed. $100 million is league average. I don't think it'll happen, but the Mariners could potentially spend $100 million this offseason and still be okay, and still probably be outside of the top 10 in Payroll. A lot of money to spend. Definitely want to do it wisely. We don't want to just throw money out there. Padres have done in the past, and other teams have, making mistakes like that. So we don't want to do that, but the money is there. So that is not a concern. It's more about finding the right fits with free agents and trades throughout this offseason. Lastly, I just want to touch on Seiya Suzuki, who was posted. He is a Japanese star with a lot of power potential and fits some positional needs that we have this offseason. I didn't have him in my free agent video because until he's posted, it's not necessarily a guarantee. Obviously, there's a pretty high likelihood that he was going to be posted this offseason. For me, it's a little bit easier to delay talking about him until it's a for sure thing. So he has been officially posted, and the Mariners will definitely be a team that will be interested in him. Obviously, it makes me a little bit worried just because, with Kikuchi and some other players in the league not translating well from the Japanese and Korean baseball leagues. But of course, not everyone can be like Ohtani, or in our case, Iwakuma and Ichiro. But I would love it if Seiya Suzuki came over, we were able to pick him up and be an important part of this team. So Seiya Suzuki is definitely a name to watch out for in the coming weeks, as there's deadlines as far as his posting and when teams can bid on him. So with that said, guys, that's going to be the end of this video. Just a little bit of an off-season update to get you guys up to speed if you don't already know about these moves and what's going on. I'm not sure how fast and furious Dipoto's going to be on the free agent market this week. I'm still only able to make videos on the weekends, so you won't see anything from me until next week when I can give a full reaction to it. But I'm very excited for this offseason to get going. The Mariners have a lot of money to spend, and the time is now. Astros have a lot of players they're losing. They're still going to be good, of course, but they won't be the powerhouse they used to be. The A's are likely going to be blowing it up and going into a rebuild. The Angels are the Angels, and then the Rangers are still down in the cellar, looking to make an upswing depending on the moves they make. Like I said, it'll be interesting offseason, and stay tuned, as I'll definitely be having a lot more videos coming out this offseason. With that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Mariners Fanatic, out.